Friends, welcome to Biology Made Easy. Today in this video, we'll discuss the biodiversity conservation. So when we'll discuss about biodiversity conservation, the first thing that comes to our mind is why? Why should we conserve it? And you will get the answer just by looking into the board. You see, here the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, in 2012 produced one red list, that is also known as Red Book, in 2012 at the summit, Earth Summit in Geo. So here, though different types are there, but only 4 types which are required for us now, I have given here. That is which is the blank and black, that is critically endangered, and the green is endangered, the red is vulnerable, and this that is blue color, that is lower risk. Now what is the meaning of these terms? Now critically endangered means if proper care will not be taken, those which are in the critically endangered stage, then in few years they will be completely extinct and we will completely lose the germplasm forever. That means they are at the high risk of being extinct. Then the next category, this green category, is endangered. This endangered means they are not critically endangered, but if proper care will not be taken, then they will next move to the critically endangered. And the third category is vulnerable. Vulnerable means these are not critically endangered or also not endangered, but if their number is very limited, they are almost endemic, and if proper care of this organisms will not be taken at present, they will move to this endangered and then to critically endangered. Then this blue one, this is known as low risk. That means these are the organisms at present they don't have much risk, but unless proper care is taken, they will move to the vulnerable group. Now again, here also I have written AN means animal and plant. That means in the critically endangered category, there are 18 species of animals and 44 species of plants. That is more plants are in the critical endangered category. While endangered category, the animal number is more, 54 species, while plant 113 species. Here also the plants are more endangered, like that of the critical endangered. Then the next one is vulnerable. In case of vulnerable, 143 species of animals, while only 87 species of plants. That means here the number of animals is more. And similarly, at the lower risk, 109 species of animals, while 73 species of plants. That means critically endangered and endangered, in this category more plants are there, while vulnerable and low risk, more number of animals are there. Their number is written there. And again, in this 5 diagrams you can see, this diagram is for angiosperms, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals. So here you see that blank one is critically endangered. That is among angiosperms, 51 species are endangered, while the green one, this 19 species are endangered, red one, vulnerable, and this is at low risk. That we see in angiosperms, more are critically endangered. Similarly, come to amphibians. In amphibians, 48 species are critically endangered, and 22 are endangered, 14 vulnerable, and 16 at lower risk. Similarly, in case of reptiles, 43 species are critically endangered and 21 endangered. Then 15 and 21 vulnerable and at lower risk. In case of birds also, more number, that is 36 species are critically endangered, 70 species are endangered, and 9 are vulnerable, while 38 species they are at a lower risk. And in case of mammals, 34 species are critically endangered, 19 species they are endangered. Then these 10 are vulnerable, and these are the 37 species are lower risk. That is, from this, now we have very clear idea what is critically endangered, what is endangered, and what is vulnerable, and what is low risk. And from among angiosperms, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, how many species are coming under which category. So now you can easily guess why should we conserve biodiversity. Once you go through this, easily you can get the answer that what is the necessity of conservation of biodiversity. So we can conserve the biodiversity for different obvious reasons, or some are even they are not obvious. So we can broadly classify that the reasons why should we conserve for this are mainly categorized into 3 categories. One is narrowly, that is, I am writing it. One is narrowly utilitarian, and the other is broadly utilitarian, and the third one is ethical. These are the 3 main causes why should we conserve biodiversity. Now come to this narrowly utilitarian. Now narrowly utilitarian means just because the different types of plants and animals are giving some benefits to us, that is why we should conserve it. That means it is quite intentional. It is a selfish attitude, just like a businessman. Because they are giving certain things, and that is why you should protect them. It is selfish nature of the human beings. So, what are the different things that we are obtaining from this biodiversity? Now, if you will list them, then you can tell that one is the food. That is different kinds of foods that we are getting, whether they may be cereals or pulses or fruits. All these things we are getting from the plants. Similarly, if you take the case of the fats and oils. Now, fats and oils, they are our daily use. Whatever type of oil, whether it is olive oil, mustard oil, sunflower oil, sesame oil, any type of oil, where from we are getting it? We are getting it from the different oily plants, those which produce oils. Then the third category you can write medicines. Now usually 25% of drugs in the world, they are only coming from the plants or their products, and there are nearly, that is you will get about 25,000 species are there. 25,000 species of plants are there, from which we are getting different types of drugs, whether it is Ayurvedic or any type of Ayush medicine that is worldwide that is used, and 25% of the drugs directly we are getting from the plants and their products. Similarly, if we come to this fuel, in the world, almost 2 million people, they are depending upon only the firewood, and they collect it, that is the firewood, they collect it for their daily use. Then another thing you can take that is biopesticides. That is, you will take the example of that Bacillus thuringiensis. So it produces biopesticides. That is why we are getting so many genetically modified plants. It may be tomato, potato, rice, anything that we are getting. So that is also one of the benefits or intention for which we should conserve the biodiversity. Then among others, it may be also that is bioprospecting. Now what is this bioprospecting? This is important because there are variations at the molecular level, genetic level, and also the species level. That means if we will consider the diversity at molecular level, genetic level, and species level, then those countries which have biological diversity, they have enormous field to become rich and rich, because we can exploit the biodiversity for different molecular diversity at the genetic level and also at the species level. So these are the different narrowly utilitarian, that is we have some intention, some selfish attitude like a businessman. For this reason we should conserve it. Now let us take the second case, that is broadly utilitarian. That means in this case, instead of being a businessman, we should be more broad. You can tell that is any common man. Now in this case, the idea is not so narrow like this, little bit broader idea. Now let us take the example. Now if we take the example of the first example, we can take that of the oxygen. Now where from we are getting the oxygen? From the plants due to photosynthesis. And the Amazon rainforest, it provides 20% of the oxygen that is produced in the earth. 20% of the oxygen is produced by the Amazon forest. And what is the importance of oxygen? If you ask any hospital or anybody is taking oxygen, you can ask what is the cost of oxygen, 1 cylinder of oxygen. And if one patient stays in ICU for few days, how many lakhs of rupees he has to give only for oxygen supply? And if you have marked it during the corona pandemic, you can easily guess what is the cost and what is the necessity of oxygen cylinders. But have you ever asked that from your birth till now, throughout day and night you are using oxygen, but how much cost you have paid to the nature? Think once, you will know the seriousness, that how much benefit we are getting from the plants. That is the one of the reason that we should conserve it. Then we will come to the second one. The second one is pollination. Pollination. So the plants, their flowers, they get pollinated by different types of pollinators, which are insects. They may be wasp, moth, these beetles, or bumblebees, or any type of insects. They usually pollinate. If these pollinators will not be there, where from we will get the food material, where from we will get the food, where from we will get the seeds for our food? Now you realize what is the importance of these different types of insects which pollinate the different types of flowers in plants. If there would have been no such pollinator, then what can you do? Can you pollinate all the plants that are present in the earth? It's quite impossible. And there is one estimate, if the human being will pollinate them, then the cost will be $117 billion. The cost of pollinating these plants. So these two are very important. But still then some other points are there. The third one we can tell, that is the climate regulation. The climatic changes That mostly depends upon the different types of the plants and the entire biodiversity. If we will destroy them, there will be change in the climate and that will lead to global warming. Then the another point is the nutrient cycling. So in the nutrient cycling, whether it is nitrogen or carbon or some phosphorus or sulfur, these are always running in a cyclic manner. From the soil, the plants absorb them, then again the animals eat them, then again after death they are again mixing. That all these biogeochemical cycles are possible due to presence of different types of plants and animals. Then another point we can take, that is biological pest control. Biological pest control. So again, this is also one of the points, that is whenever there is some pest attacks, instead of using the agrochemicals, we can use their predators by which we can control it. But if these predators will be extinct, then we have to give different types of agrochemicals, pesticides, and that will lead to air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, all those things. Then the other important points is, another is aesthetic value. Aesthetic value. That means when you feel bored, usually you go to a park. In a park, what are there? Only different types of ornamental plants are there. So when you just sit there for some time, you feel relaxed. You are stress free. That is the aesthetic value. Similarly, if you go to a forest, you walk in a forest, the singing of the birds, the smell of the flowers, you can enjoy it. And side by side, there is also a theological value. Theological means a religion value. That means some believe that this plant we should conserve because this is for a religion purpose. So different plants are for different religions. And the other is recreational. That means usually you go for different types of picnics and similar type of entertainments only to places where there is biological diversity, forests, lakes, like that. And the last point in this point that we will discuss is ecotourism. Now this ecotourism is one of the very important aspects of the revenue collection throughout the world. Because it is because of the biological diversity, that is why the different tourists, they go to different places, and in this ecotourism, the collection in the entire world in 1 year is 32 trillion dollars. $32 trillion, while the global gross product is only $18 trillion. The global gross product. So this is only, that means from tourism we can collect double the amount than that of the world GDP. So from this you can guess what is the importance of this broadly utilitarian. The third one is ethical. Ethical means moral, or you can tell spiritual. So ethical means every living organism in this biosphere has a right to live. As we have right to live, similarly it may be a small insect, it may be plant, may be animal, anyone, but it has a right to live. The organism has been created and it has a right to live. But the human beings, They are killing them like anything. There is deforestation, there is killing. That means this is not ethical. In a better example, if you want to know, suppose you will become a doctor and your enemy will come to you for treatment. What your ethics will tell you. Even if he is an enemy, ethically you have to give him in the right way, you have to give him medicines. You cannot give him wrong medicines because you are enemy. Suppose you are working as a doctor in a place where there are terrorists and some of the terrorists are injured and they will come to you for treatment. What you will do? Will you think that is a terrorist, let him die? No, that is not ethical. According to ethics, you have to treat the terrorist even in the right way. So these are the different purposes. This is the selfish attitude, this is normal attitude, but this is moral attitude. So these are the three different purposes for which we should conserve biodiversity. So before concluding it, I will give you one question. So a species facing extremely high risk of extinction in the immediate future. Is called first choice vulnerable, second choice endemic, third choice critically endangered, and fourth choice extinct. Now this question was asked in AIPMT 2014 and Kerala PMT 2009. So I hope now a very clear understanding what is this IUCN red list or red book data, what is critically endangered, vulnerable and low risk, and how the different types of organisms, the angiosperm, amphibians, reptile, birds and mammals, they are coming in that category, and to what extent, and what is our main purpose for conservation of biodiversity. So thank you very much. God bless you. Wish a very bright future.